Hey everyone, in this video I want to check out NameGuard. I want to show you how you can integrate NameGuard to provide a safer environment for your users when dealing with ENS names in the Web3 space. But before we dive into NameGuard, I think we should first have a look at what ENS actually is. If you're not familiar, ENS is a decentralized naming service for wallets, websites, and more. So similar to DNS, with ENS, we're able to map a name to an Ethereum address. So instead of having to remember and copy and save these addresses here for all of your different contacts, instead you can just use a single name that resolves to this address. We can see here that this resolves to notrab.eth. So if you're like me and you've sent transactions using an ENS name such as notrab.eth, then it can be somewhat scary because it's not always obvious that the name you are sending to is actually that name. A name could appear to be notrab, but it could have some invisible characters, so you're not actually sending me your money, but you're sending that to someone that wants to steal all your money. So how do we get around this? Well, NameGuard is what we're going to be using in this video to see how easy it is to detect these malicious names. There are various checks that NameGuard does under the hood that you can use and call out to, and you can provide it a name hash, a label hash, or even a NFT, and it's able to validate and tell you all of the information about that so you can make an informed decision when sending and dealing with these different ENS names. So in this video, we will be using the NameGuard SDK with React, but don't worry, if you're not using React or JavaScript, then you can use the API directly, and at the end of the video, I'll show you how you can go through the documentation and learn about everything that NameGuard has to offer. So let's get started. So here I am at nameguard.io. Here we can get links to documentation, the actual source code for everything that you see and use here, and we can learn a little bit more about what this product does. But let's test out and see this in action. If we click the search bar here, and we can see we have some example names here, if we hover over one of these names, this is the kind of UI that you can create inside of your application to inform users of the name that they are interacting with. So here we can see there is some risk for this name here. And if we go to this other name, we can see there is some other risk here, and that there were 3 risks detected. We can see with 420.eth that there is a high risk. There were 3 risks detected, and that this contains some invisible characters. So this name isn't what it appears to be. If we have a look at the name 420.eth, as we scroll down, we can see the risks that were detected by NameGuard when it ran all of its checks. And if we continue to scroll, we can see the name inspection itself. So here we have 420, but look at this first character. It's actually an invisible character, and there are 2 more risks associated with this. There are also checks for all of these different characters as well. So as you click into one of these, you can see a detailed report about all of the risks that were detected for that character. If we go back and click on one that looks good, here we can see we have the digit 4, and we can see there were 0 risks found when NameGuard ran all of its different checks. The example that you see here is a reference implementation using the NameGuard APIs and SDK. You can build whatever you like. But if you're looking for a quick way to inspect the name of a user in the ENS space, then nameguard.io has your back. So here we've got a simple page within our Next.js application. It simply returns a h1 for the report, and we have the page that looks like this. Now the first thing we'll need to do is use npm, pnpm, bun, whatever you're using, install the dependency. So here we'll do npm install, then we'll provide namehash/nameguard. Once that's installed, I'm simply going to run the Next.js development server and minimize the terminal. Then we're going to import the singleton NameGuard from the NameGuard package. This NameGuard import contains everything you need to get started. It uses the default NameGuard API and versions, so there isn't anything that you need to set up other than importing NameGuard. Because we're using Next.js here, I'm going to call out to NameGuard and make an inspection for a particular name. So here we have myname.eth. We'll then assign a new report, which we'll call await NameGuard. Then we'll call inspect name. We'll then pass that name, And then inside of our application, we can simply print out the JSON for that report. Once we refresh the page, we can then see the detailed report back from NameGuard for the specific domain that we passed in. So here we can see all of the different checks, and to be honest, everything here looks okay. We can see that here because there is a 0 risk count and that the rating is pass. So if you're showing this inside of your own UI, you could show a badge to say that this name is good and you can continue to do what you need to, such as sending a transaction to this name. Let's update this so now we can include a different character for E, save, and now when we refresh, we can see there is a new risk count of 3 and that the highest risk is that this is a confusing name. If we scroll down, we can see all of the different checks, and here we can see for the confusable check that this may be a confusable name because of that character E. We can also see that this character may be difficult to type on certain keyboards or inputs, and that there could be an impersonation risk. If you're interacting with this name and you don't spot that accent on the E, you could continue to send or interact with this name in chat apps or wallets, and you might think it is actually my name instead of my name with that accent E, which isn't good. So NameGuard hopes to create a safer ENS space by providing you all of the details you need to implement the necessary UI elements to inform your users of all of these different checks and all of the different labels within a name. NameGuard is also fully type safe, so you can inspect all of the different functions that are available and what they return. So you can develop with peace in mind that you're using all of the APIs correctly. To learn more about NameGuard and what it can do, head to nameguard.io and click Docs. Once you're inside the documentation, you can follow the quick start to get started using NameGuard and all of the different inspection reports that it's able to generate. In this video, we just looked at inspecting a single name, but you can inspect multiple names at once by passing an array of names to the bulk inspect names generator. You can also verify ETH names, inspect graphemes, label hashes, name hashes, and so much more. NameGuard is also fully open source, so you're able to self-host this, configure it to work with different chains, and look at the specification of all of the different checks that it does to make sure that we have a safe ENS space. Also, if you'd like detailed instructions on how to get started with the SDK, you can also do that here, and how you can create a custom client to work with the different support chains. Lastly, I mentioned that if you're not using React or you're not using JavaScript and TypeScript, then you can use the API itself. The API can be found at api.nameguard.io. Right now, there is no authentication for this, but this could change in the future that you will need to provide an API key to monitor and track usage. But for now, everything is open and it's in beta. If we have a look at the different checks here, we can see for the inspect name, what the URL looks like, and all of the different path parameters that are required. So that's it. Hopefully you found this tutorial useful and you can go on to implement NameGuard inside of your own applications.